the President of the House of Chiefs, Togbi Teprehodo, and to also welcome our young children, the students here, our security services, and senior government officials, and residents of the Volta region. Today, the Resetting Ghana tour comes to the Volta region. And when I was seeking the mandate of the people of Ghana to return to office for another mandate to govern, one of the things I promised them was accountable governance. And accountable governance means that from time to time you must come back and report to the people what you're doing for them and give them the opportunity to interact with you. And so that's why we began this Resetting Ghana tour. It has taken us to several regions already, and today is the turn of the Volta region. I brought my ministers to account for the various sectors that they have been handling, and I want to thank them for the very vibrant and spirited accounts that they gave. Many of them I have worked with in my political life. Many of them were my young deputy ministers when I was president, so it was not difficult at all for me to upgrade them when I became president. Others served in parliament on the leadership of our bench and garnered a lot of experience as chairs of committees governing the various sectors in parliament. And so it's obvious that they've all come to the job with a lot of knowledge and experience of the various sectors that they lead. And I'm proud that we've given the opportunity to the next generation, because we were giving the same opportunity. I came into Parliament and then as a deputy minister when I was barely 37 years of age, turning 38. And I was given the chance to participate in governance. 2 years later, I became the Minister of Communications just when I turned 40 years. And so, like Togbi Teprehodo said, I think that the youth are capable. The way that we were entrusted with a mandate to govern at that early age is the same way the current generation should be entrusted, to be able to govern and run this country. I'm proud to say that I think we have I promise we would have the youngest cabinet in history. And arguably this is the most youthful cabinet since independence. Indeed, the oldest minister is just 53 years of age. And so you can imagine that we're doing well. So I just touch on a few of the things. They've covered most, and so I'll just weave it all together. And to say that in 2024, I came to the World Bank for a loan. And that loan was in the form of votes. And you didn't hesitate. You credited my account. With 90.2% of votes. And so today, when I've come here, I'm not coming for another loan. I'm coming to tell you the deposit I've made in your bank. And from what all the ministers said, you can see that the deposit we put into the World Bank is quite significant. And so I'll just touch on a few of the things. Yesterday we were in Japon, and everybody knows historically Japon as an industrial city. When I was a young boy growing up, my father had a rice mill in the northern part of Ghana called Mesido Rice Mill. It processed finished rice for the Ghanaian market, and even started exporting. In those days, Ghana didn't import any rice from anywhere. We were self-sufficient. And just next to my father's factory was the Ghana Cotton Company, which was a cotton ginnery. And at that time, there was a lot of cotton growing in the northern part of Ghana. And they used to gin the cotton and load it onto trucks. And the trucks headed down south. I didn't know exactly where the trucks were going. It was in later years that I realized that that cotton used to come to Japan. And it used to go to Volta Star Textiles. And they used to spin the cotton, produce the thread, and weave the thread into what we call grey baft. And the grey baft was supplied to GTP and all the other textiles companies so that they print the wax prints that our mothers and sisters love to wear. So it was an integrated cotton industry. Unfortunately, Japan Textiles closed down. And it closed down because of unpaid electricity bill. One day ECG got angry and went and switched the factory off. And so the factory didn't have any power to produce. And then their suppliers started hounding them, and their banks started, closing down on them. And eventually, even when ECG restored the power, the factory was never able to stand on its feet again. Since then, it has been an untold story of abandonment. Several governments have tried to revive it without success. This time, we have started a process of revival. And I'm very confident that the way we are approaching it, this next revival of the Japan Textiles factory will be sustainable, and it will make it an industrial jewel in the Volta region. We have finished the process of a transactions advisor. Indeed, we've even gone beyond the transactions advisor. The transactions advisor has selected the strategic investor who's coming to join with us to revive the factory. And so we're going through his proposal and the feasibility. They're going to retool the factory, bring new, more efficient machines. And we're also, like I said yesterday, going to source the cotton, because the cotton industry in the north collapsed. And so we're going to source the cotton from next door in Benin and from Burkina Faso, and we're going to bring Japan Textiles back to its old glory. Then we also have what we call the Volta Economic Corridor. It's a component of the 24-hour economy, and it covers 3 regions. It covers part of Greater Accra, part of Volta region, and part of Eastern region. All that corridor has been identified as not only an industrial enclave, but for the setting up of agro-industrial parks and for large-scale irrigation farming. And so that whole area, including water transport, luckily in my first presidency, we signed with the Indian Exim, and they put in the rail line from Tema to Akosombo. The port in Mpakadang is going to be built, and there's a private investor also building a second port at Asikuma, and those will be the key ports, and they'll connect Pando, Toko, and all the other communities along the lake, all the way to Bipe in the north. And so that whole corridor will be reached by train and by barge, so that any products that they produce, containers, industrial equipment and whatever, will be brought down the lake and put on the train straight to Tema, either for export or for domestic consumption. We also recently sent a delegation to Japan. And I was in Japan last year. Several years ago when I was president, I went to Japan, and together with Prime Minister Abe, may God bless his soul, the late Prime Minister Abe, we signed an MOU for the construction of the iconic Volivo Bridge. The Volivo Bridge is a very important aspect of the Eastern Corridor. And we signed the MOU. Unfortunately, we left office and the project delayed for a very long time. And so over the next 8 years, nothing happened with the project. a contractor had been chosen, but because of the long delay, he decided to pull out. He said he was no longer interested in the project. And the Japan government was almost getting at the point of losing hope whether the project will continue. But last year when I went, I met the Prime Minister of Japan, and I told him this is a very important project, dear to the hearts of my people in the Volta region, and indeed for the entire Eastern Corridor. And so they said they will look to see how they can, because of the time delay, the cost of the project had gone up, and it was more than the loan that he had assigned to it. And so I appealed to them to give a top-up to be able to cover the increased cost of the bridge. And I'm happy to announce that they accepted to top it up. And we have done all the preliminary works and are just at the point of appointing and selecting a new contractor to come on site. And I'm sure that before the end of this year, we'll invite Togwiwo Mamao and we'll go to Volivo and cut the site for the new Volivo bridge. Recently, the minister paid a visit to Japan, and happily he took some of our traditional leaders along to accompany him, so they are aware of the progress that we have made. With regards to the Keita port, the minister has given us the brief. The feasibility study and design have been endorsed. It was brought to cabinet. The environmental impact assessment has been approved, and the EPA has given all the approvals for the project to go along. The administration block is almost finished. It's only a certain government that builds administration blocks before they build a port. It was the same with Buankra. They built the administration block, completed it, finished it, and there was no port. Up to now, there's no port. But we are confident that this time we are on track to deliver the Keita port. We are praising the proposals of strategic investors. Several people, more than 20 investors have come who have expressed interest in joining us to do the Keita port. And one of the recommendations is that we're going to extend the rail line, the Temakosombo line. We're going to extend it to Dawa. There's a new industrial area when you're coming to Volta region. There's the Dawa industrial area on your left. The rail line is going to be extended there. And our intention is to extend it from Dawa to Keita so that any containers that are offloaded in Keita can be put on the train and go straight towards Tema and Accra. With UHAS, we were in UHAS yesterday, and the Vice Chancellor and the Chancellor, indeed the Council was holding a meeting yesterday, so they got the opportunity to commend us for the work we have done in UHAS. We went and inspected their new laboratory block that is coming up. And I'm pleased to say that we cut the sword for that laboratory block when I was president. And again, it had stalled over the period that we left office until we came back to office, and we got the contractor to go back on site. And I'm happy to say that it's more than 70% complete. And when it's completed, UHAS would have the biggest laboratory complex in the whole of West Africa. And it's going to raise UHAS standard, because when they look at universities and they rank them, they look at your laboratories for research and learning. It's going to have a simulation center, so the students are going to be able to simulate, doing operation surgeries on people. They are going to be able to, the nurses are going to be able to simulate how to look after a patient. and all that. It's going to have a first-class simulation center, and then it's going to have a huge pathology lab with a mortuary. And so after they have done the simulation, they'll now go to the real lab, and there will be physical dead bodies, you know, to do their pathology practicals on. But most interestingly, they are in contact with the National Vaccine Institute, and one of the laboratories is going to be a laboratory for pathogen research. The only laboratory we have for pathogen research in this country is the Noguchi Memorial Institute. And that means that they're going to be able to research on pathogens, and they're going to work with the National Vaccine Institute to be able to produce vaccinations right here in Hope. The council also briefed us on their other needs, and we took note of them. We need additional lecture rooms. We need additional hostels in UHAS, but UHAS has come a long way. I mean, from the time when we began it with Professor Binka and others as the pioneer Vice Chancellor, it has grown from strength to strength, and I can assure you that UHAS continues to be our baby, because it was the vision of Professor John Atta Mills, and we shall always make sure that UHAS gets its fair share of the national cake. With regard to the whole teaching hospital, again, I went to Korea last year, and I had a meeting tete-a-tete with the Prime Minister, and I met the other senior government officials. We had arranged an EXIM facility of about $200 million to upgrade the facilities in the whole teaching hospital. Unfortunately, because of the debt restructuring, it was affected by the debt restructuring. And so during my visit again to Korea, we are restarting the EXIM negotiations so that we can get the $200 million to upgrade the whole teaching hospital. It will give it another 500 beds. It will expand it by 500 beds. Indeed, when the local government minister was speaking, he said that for 1.5 years, we haven't contracted a single loan from the international market. We haven't taken a single loan. Only last week, Cabinet approved the first 2 loan agreements that we are bringing to Parliament. For the first time in this government, the first 2 loan agreements. And one is a $500 million World Bank agreement for feeder roads. And I want to announce that Volta region, you have your fair share of that $500 million. Then the second loan is a $300 million, also a World Bank facility, to end the double track. We want by 2027, no child in secondary school in Ghana should be on double track. And so we're building 16 new secondary schools, and then we're expanding the facilities in all the existing secondary schools so that all the children can go to school at the same time and vacate at the same time. And we also, I think the transport minister spoke about the whole airport. We built it hoping that we could kickstart commercial air travel. But we realized that the distance between Ho and Accra is so short that people were not really taking advantage of it. So it has been underutilized for some time. But airports are built for different purposes. Aside from that, we are sure that commercial travel will pick up again, because Accra should not be the only origin destination for air travel. I mean, people want to come from Tamale to Ho, and they have to drive how many hours? 13 hours to get to Ho. And so we must look at the connectivity. For instance, combine Tamale, Kumasi, Ho. You can bring Kumasi passengers, drop them, continue to Ho, and drop the passengers there. Or you can go from Ho to Kumasi, take some passengers to Tamale or to Wa. So we're still exploring the commercial bit. But while doing that, there are other things that we are intending to do, including what the minister mentioned, a pilot training school here. The land has been allocated by the Ghana Airport Company Limited for the pilot training school. It will train pilots here in Ho. It will also train aeronautical engineers, those who are engineers who service the planes. It will train them right here in Ho. There will also be a valeting service for those who have private jets, like my younger brother. He can fly his jet here. They will be able to clean and wash the plane nicely, and then if he wants to park it here, he can park it here. Some can come from Nigeria for cleaning and valeting, and we're also looking at a repair facility, and so minor repairs on aircrafts can be done at the Ho Airport. Next to the Ho Airport, we also gave land to the Tema Development Corporation. Because it has the name TDC, Tema Development Corporation, people think that it should build only in Tema. But when we came, we gave them the license to expand outside Tema. As the land in Tema is finishing, they must move outside Tema. And so the first location they chose was Ho. And recently I came and cut the sword for the start of what we call the Oxygen City. And it is just next to the airport. And so I've seen some of the videos of the work that is going on there. They've started with the road infrastructure, and actually I've started with some of the houses, you know, in the estate. And so I'm sure that when it's done, it will increase the value of the real estate in that area. And because of the proximity of the airport, it might also attract, you know, people who want to come at the weekend to home. You've been told about their flower market. The feasibility study and design have been done. The commitment authorization has been given by the finance minister, and so they are now going for procurement. And so they'll hold a tender, and then the contractor would be awarded. And the site has been acquired, the documents have been done. The families who own the site have given the land, appropriate land, for the market to be built. So that will start soon. And that's in addition to all the 18 other markets that are being provided for all the districts in the Volta region. He's told you about the whole stadium. We inspected it today, and we're going to start the design for a modern stadium. The land is big enough, and its location is very good. It's in the center of the city. But what I just wanted to add to what the minister said was that we're going to make it a multi-use facility. Normally when you build a stadium and you make it available only for soccer or football, when there's no football, the place is empty and nobody is using it. So this is going to be both a sports stadium, but it will have restaurants, shops, it will have entertainment, sports, and all that, so that it will operate 24/7. So even when we're not playing football, if you want to go and relax and do something, you can go to the stadium and go and relax there. So that's what I wanted to add. But just to wrap up, I'll just talk about other governance issues. That's the constitutional amendment. Cabinet held its final meeting on the constitutional amendments last week. And the Attorney General is going to complete what we call the government's position paper. The government position paper will be added to the Constitutional Review Committee report. And very soon I'm going to inaugurate the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee. And so these two documents will be handed over to the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee, and then they will come up with a roadmap for implementing the Constitutional Review. It has a lot of interesting things in it, and went through it clause by clause by clause. Some of the recommendations of the Constitutional Review Committee we accepted, but there were others too that we didn't think were important, and so we gave our opinion on them. So all that will go to the Constitutional Review Implementation Committee, and then they will start the roadmap for implementing it. I also just want to touch on accountability and to say that we do not harbor any malice against any person. And indeed, I do not take any enjoyment or pride in prosecuting people if they have done no wrong. And I believe that our prosecutorial system, investigative system, and judicial system grants enough leverage for people to have justice. And so nobody would, out of political vendetta or malice, prosecute anybody if you've done no wrong. And if you've done no wrong and you are being prosecuted maliciously, the courts will be able to uphold your rights and set you free. And so it shouldn't be like we're trying to hound our political opponents or something. We proceed on the basis of evidence we have received. And then the evidence is weighed. And if it is sufficient, there are many times we have reports and all that. Sometimes the evidence comes and it's not substantive. And so you say, if it's on the weight of this evidence, you cannot proceed to court. So discard it. Or investigate further and see if there's something else that you have not found. But otherwise, if a case proceeds, and that is why the whole system of accountability is taking time. Because you need to be thorough. By the time Yoko or OSP or somebody comes and arrests the person, it means that months of work have taken place reviewing the evidence. And so I just want to assure that accountability is still our #1 priority. But like I keep saying, the sword does not cut only one way. If we find evidence that any of our current appointees or persons working in government under our tenure also has abused the public trust, the way the sword is cutting that way, it will cut this way too. And so I always caution my appointees to be very careful. Be sure you follow the procedure, don't cut corners. And the point is, if you have any doubts, I tell the ministers every day, if you have any doubt, bring it to cabinet. Let's all look at it and take a collective decision on it. If you bring it to cabinet and we take a collective decision based on the wisdom of the president and all the ministers there, tomorrow nobody can come and hold you and say you did this on your own because you wanted to do this or do that. And so we'll continue to pursue accountability, because I believe that if we are accountable, we cut down corruption, and we also reduce the amount of waste of public resources, we would not need to go to the IMF for anything. I mean, look at all the work we've done in one and a half years without going onto the international capital markets for borrowing. Where did that money come from? It is the same cedis, the same domestic revenue that we have used for everything. Agboja spoke, last year we used 13.8 billion for the big push alone. This year, 30.8 billion for the big push alone. And so that's a commitment of more than 40 billion cedis. I mean, where did we find more than 40 billion cedis for reconstructing our roads? It's because we cut waste We are prioritizing where we are putting the people's money. And that is going to be the hallmark of this government. And so, Tokyo Mama, I want to thank you. I just make a little comment. The people of Ghana gave me a mandate for 1 term. And I am working hard to meet the promises I made them. And so I always tell my ministers, I say, let's number our days so that we can work harder to meet the promises we made the Ghanaian people. I know that people have gone to the Supreme Court seeking interpretation of the clause that governs the tenure of the president. If you ask my personal opinion, I thought that it was clear enough. Me, I've read it over several times. It's exactly what it says, but if they want to ask the Supreme Court, that is their business. But I know that the people of Ghana gave me 1 additional term, and I'm going to work to meet the trust that they put in me. Thank you very much.